We'll start off with a question this morning. Why did the widow give 2 small copper coins worth about a penny? That's exactly right. It was all that she had, and she gave it. Today's gospel reading, Jesus continues to rail against the scribes and the Pharisees, those who outwardly seem righteous and yet really whose hearts are in the wrong place. Those who wear long robes, well, those who pray in public places. Well, Jesus said, don't follow their example. And so they took the disciples and they stood in front, across from the treasury. Now, it was explained to me by one of my brothers from seminary about this treasury thing. Now, whether it's true or not, this is what he told me. But it makes sense. The treasury was essentially like a big horn, a big brass horn that went, and it's sort of like one of those things on a boat that would come up out of the, what's that called? An air vent. But it comes up out of the floor. It's got a big horn that opens up. One of our Coast Guard. So anyway, what
Vinfrious areas.
areas?
Vinfrious areas.
That's great. So it looked like a bench of areas. And what happened was, folks would come and they would make their offering. Well, and the idea is that the rich folks would come and they'd get all their shekels broken down into the smallest denominations. So when they poured their bag of money in and clattered and banged and made a lot of noise. And another way of standing, and saying, look at me, look at me. Well, and then this poor widow comes and she puts her 2 small coins in, worth about a penny. It's a wonderful story. And during this time of year, it's another one of those opportunities to talk about stewardship, because everybody's doing their November canvases now about this time. Well, we finished last week. Of course, if you haven't pledged, there's still the opportunity to do that. And I won't ask you to raise your hand so that we can bring you a pledge card. But there still is the opportunity to do that. And that is important. Well, the widow's modest offering was what she had. Now, Jesus had been railing about the scribes and the Pharisees who devour widows' houses, meaning that they didn't care where the money that they were paid, the money that kept up the temple, they didn't care where that came from. All they cared was it was there. And they didn't care that widows would offer their last penny. Well, from the view of that generous widow, she didn't do that for the scribes and the Pharisees. She made her offering from her substance, not from her surplus, from her substance, as her devotion and her gratitude to God. She gave what she had and offered it to God. Well, for me, what this gospel says is that in our lives, stewardship needs to be a way of life. We stole, a couple of years ago, we stole a phrase from the Diocese of North Carolina that talked about stewardship. All that we are, all that we have, all of the time. And that's the truth, because everything that we have been given has been given to us by God in God's loving grace and good. The truth is, all of us can give. All of us can give. Now, I'm not just talking about money. All of us can give. We all have the capacity, even if it's only a little. Even if it's only a little. I remember when I was a child, and most of you know that I was son of a priest. And when I was in I guess it was like the second or third grade, I don't know, but I got 25 cents for my allowance. And this is, you got to remember, this is 1957, 1958. A quarter went a whole lot farther than it does today. And my parents sat me down and said, all right, what are you going to give to the church out here? Well, it was, 7-year-old kid. My parents said, yeah, what are you going to give? It was, I wasn't coercive, but that's what it did. Well, anyway, what I said, I'd give a dime to the church and I'd give 15 cents. And, that's a good gesture on my part. Well, and 15 cents at that point in time would still buy an oatmeal pie and a lime slushie. So, it wasn't like I was destitute. But the truth is, that's not a bad witness for us in terms of giving. Because each effort, large or small, that we make as we give, takes away our fear of scarcity. The biggest reason for folks not giving is their fear that they'll run out. And I've said it last week, and I'll say it again, and I'll probably say it quite some time now. There is enough. There is enough for each of us in our lives. There is enough. What Jesus meant, I believe, was that God doesn't just want our 10 cents or our 2 small copper coins. God wants to give ourselves, to give of ourselves, our hearts, our souls, and our minds. Well, and that's lived out in particular and intentional ways. Yesterday I was down here in the church and writing my sermon, and usually that's a very quiet time. Nobody can think. Well, it just so happens that yesterday there was somebody down here working on the audio equipment for an hour or so, and somebody else here polishing the brass for about 3 or 4 hours. There was somebody else that came and did the flowers. And then somebody else set up for communion this morning for the 8 o'clock service. And so our understanding of giving is not just that dime or whatever that happens to be in terms of our lives. It's giving of ourselves, our time, our talent, and our treasure to the church for God. Well, and that's, a life of stewardship, all we have all the time, isn't just about here in this place. It's about out there as well. All we have, all we are all the time. So what does that mean in our daily lives? What does that mean in our daily lives? Well, the truth of the matter is, small kindnesses can have an enormous impact on others, on how others feel. Small kindnesses can have an enormous impact on how others feel. And we talk about this from time to time, that it's really important for us as Christians to reach out and to care about others. And one little way that we can do that is a smile and a kind word. A smile and a kind word. And I'm not saying that that's the only way to do that, but I think it's a real good example, because if you smile at somebody and say something nice to them, the interesting thing is that they very often smile back. They very often smile back. So that makes me feel good to be able to smile at someone. And it makes them feel good to be able to smile back. So we both. And who knows, that person might smile at somebody else. Our actions might be that ripple effect. And that's just a small way of giving to the other. Well, and why did the woman give the 2 small copper coins? Why did we respond? Because we have been loved first. It's gratitude. Gratitude. Our giving thanks for what we have been given. Our giving thanks for what we